Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Mile High Game Guys board gaming podcast. I'm your host Adrian.
I'm Zach.
And I'm Jeff.
And we're coming to you with another Thursday episode sponsored by Gray Fox Games. We're back. We took a week off. We're back.
Yeah, and there's a discount code from our sponsors.
That's right. That's right. For approximately like 2 days after this episode comes out, you can still use the October code of MHSpooky to get 20% off of all of their normal product, non-exclusive products over at grayfoxgames.com. So,
which I believe is anything that's not Gray Fox exclusive, aka their Kickstarter exclusives that they allow you to buy afterwards instead of being jerks and locking it to Kickstarter only.
Yeah. Exactly. So jump over there, check out their games, maybe support them, and through them support us in a nice little circle of board game life.
Yay!
So we took a week off because none of us had played any games. There wasn't even like a bloody minute last week. It was just kind of an off week.
And now there's two Blood Bowl games.
Yeah. So we took a second off to recoup, but now we have all played games. We're all ready to talk about games. And so we'll dive right into what we've been playing. And we'll start off with, first time in a long time, we'll start off with last week's stream. Because we felt like since we didn't do an episode, that we should still do some kind of content so as to vaguely pretend that we still regularly do content on a set schedule. And as such, we did a surprise stream. It was our first stream. Yep. It was our first stream doing remote, first stream doing like tabletop simulator, digital type board game stuff. And so it was very last minute kind of thrown together. We weren't sure how it actually play out, and it worked pretty well. We chose, fittingly enough, for our first stream, the MHGG #1 popular Terraforming Mars. We played on the Make Mars Green Again mod, which is a mod for Tabletop Simulator that brings in everything for Terraforming Mars.
And
so
more.
You can pick and choose, and more, and a lot of BGG stuff, all kinds of fan-made content.
Yeah.
It is actively being developed by, it's like a fan one. There's a community. They've got a Discord with a changelog where they continually update new versions of it. You can't find it on the Steam workshop for Tabletop Simulator, so you have to go track it down through the Discord and get it that way.
Oh, really?
But,
wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a lot harder. That's a lot more annoying.
I did not realize that was a non-workshop related mod.
Same here.
Yeah. It is a non-workshop mod. So, but it was a fantastic mod.
Yes.
Had a ton. When you set up at the beginning, one of the things you can set up is you can choose like all the different expansions, and then you can also choose like advanced scripting. And the advanced scripting makes it to where like you click a button on your, like all the cards end up with buttons. You click the button and it does the card. So like it'll give you resources, it'll deduct money, it does the whole thing for you when you want to play a card on your turn, which is so nice.
Well,
yeah.
and there's an activate spot where you can place the card to activate it, and you can use it to pay like with steel or titanium. And then also, if you have any other deductions, it'll take that into account.
And it adds in all your tags and deductions and everything in this top row above your resource board.
So it's easy for you, but also easy for your opponents to see, like who has, like if you're trying to score on scientist tags, you can see who has science tags. So
So just a bunch of really awesome quality of life type improvements.
It
in that
mostly
mod.
even auto-scored for us.
Yeah, it really did.
The only thing we had to add in was milestones and then cards.
And then our cards, yeah.
Yeah. But all of the plants and adjacency to plants, because even the plant tiles and city tiles had an activate button for your turn, and it would put your city on there so the game knew whose was whose.
Yeah.
Which is neat.
Yes, it was.
Yes.
Well, and we did, like on that final part, you do like last round plant like last round greeneries, but it scored before that. But as soon as like you put all those down, you can just hit refresh, and then it rescores it, taking those into account. So that was real cool.
Yeah. We ended up, so we had Megan join us, so it was a 4-player game. It still took like almost 3 hours, even with all those quality of life improvements speeding along. Some of that I think was just getting used to, playing it on Tabletop Simulator. It was our first time for any of us to play that mod, so we were kind of getting used to it.
Your guys' frequent bathroom breaks.
Yes.
I think everyone took one. I may have taken a second one right at the end. I
did not, and I think you took 2, Jeff took 2, and Megan might have taken 2 as well.
It was definitely towards the end of the game.
Yes. Right.
where the bathroom was catching up.
Yeah.
Yeah. The beers were catching up to the bladders.
Yeah.
So but yeah, it was a lot of fun. I ended up pulling out the victory.
The classic Adrian victory of bitchin' all game, that you're in last or fighting for third, and then you ended up squeaking out the victory.
There is some truth to this. I don't know if it was full on bitching level, but
we'll just say complaining, not But
to be fair, early it did look like I was going to be hosed.
Yeah.
Like you and Megan looked like you were going to be unstoppable.
Yeah, you two were both you were the Jovian Space Corporation, and she was the Phobos, which was the core space corporation, and then you both kept pulling like the best fucking space cards you could out of just the draft.
Yeah.
Turn for turn. And I always go for that, and then it never happens. And then Adrian just handed you one of the best Jovian cards in the game instead of hate drafting it from you.
Which, to be fair, him doing that let me target, out of slight guilt, targeted Megan instead of Adrian. And
with losing plants, I think.
Yes.
Which is how Adrian ended up winning.
Yeah. Well, because he's Ecoline. You can never, you always got to fucking keep an eye out on Ecoline for plants, because that's their fucking thing, and you make a shitload of points out of plants. So
yeah, like that was definitely one of the things that hurt I think Megan pretty bad, is she didn't really have much board presence at all.
Oh yeah, no, it seemed like each one of us focused on one thing in particular. You focused on the board, I focused on cards, and then Megan focused on something. I forget what it was. Was it
space stuff.
Well, yeah, she was also dominating on the actual terraforming track.
That's what it was, yes.
Oxygen. Because she got some insane combo that she put out the oxygen splitter that gives you steel and an oxygen boost. And that normally takes 4 energy to be able to use. And then her prelude cards and one of her starting cards got her 4 energy. So she was using that from turn 1, which is the first time I've seen oxygen be the first thing done ever.
Yes.
Or in a very long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was an extremely powerful combination. That was, I think she had almost every oxygen bump except like 3 that Adrian got with plants before it was done.
Yeah.
That's not too far off, yeah.
Yeah, we made 6 because we only went 8 generations. It was also one of the shortest games I've ever played, generation-wise.
Same here, yeah. It was some of that stuff was pretty crazy. That oxygen just went so fast, but it let us get like birds and animals out. Yeah, birds and fish out, and actually get points on them.
Yeah.
Instead of just like the 1 or 2 you get at the end.
Yes, which is not worth it for how much that card costs.
Yeah.
I had like a big thermal engine, so I got a lot of those thermal bumps. But I also had gotten the caretaker contract, which I would have been able to use that 8 that I would have had every round to get me an extra terraform rating, except when the thermal finally got put out, it was also the last round. So I only got literally one action out of it, 1 point, 1 terraform rating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because normally, once that heat hits, it's like, all right, we still got to put 6 oceans down and got to bump oxygen up 8. Not this time.
Not this time at all.
Yeah. Odd game.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. The progression of a lot of that was kind of bizarre. But yeah,
But I did have Builder in like Generation 2, so
Yes, you did.
I think at the end of Generation 1, I had 5 Builder attacks.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I remember for the awards, like I ended up funding 2 of them, but I got second on all 3 of them. And so Adrian was able to sneak out the banker from me, because at that point when I funded it, I had like 19 money, and he was the closest with like 8.
Mm-hmm.
And then he was able to get the one that increased it by space tags, your money generation, and then by cities for money generation, and so that bumped you all the way up to 23.
Yeah, it's
and
like
there was
space tolls or whatever.
Yeah, and there was nothing.
But it wasn't that one. It's like wind turbines or something wind related. But yeah,
it was a lot. Space toll was the first one, I think.
Yeah,
and then wind for the second one. No, Zeppelins was the second one.
Zeppelins.
Yeah,
I knew it was something air related. Yes.
Which I remember passing on in the very beginning, because it was like, well, I don't want to hold on to this for right now.
Yeah, I also did that.
Yep.
Whereas I immediately drafted it and was like, I will gladly sit on this for half the game.
Yeah.
It will pay
90% of the
dividends
game.
in the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't jump it until way late. Basically until I saw that like money was going to be one of the things that was like a focus. So, yeah, we had a few people in chat actually comment along, following along. So that was cool.
Who was it? Was it Cassandra? No. Who was
Cassidy.
it? Cassidy. No. Candace.
Well,
Candace.
I called her Candace at one point because I had been consuming lots of beverages, which she promptly gave me plenty of shit about. So,
many people did.
Yes. So, but yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was good to play games with you guys again. It was good to do a stream again and like hang out with people in chat. It was good to win a game again.
We did stream over our Discord video, but because we can't really separate it, it was just all 4 of us were just off on a corner in the side of the stream, so you couldn't. Yeah. And then also we were all always following from Adrian's perspective, and I'm assuming he did a decent enough job of
jumping around from
as much as I liked to joke about the fact that I had the Twitch screen up so I could see everything that you had. I never actually looked at it.
Yeah. So that was one thing that like it made it hard for me to plan my turns, because I wanted to like not just have people see my like board in hand while I was like plotting out my turn. So I'd follow along and they'd be like, all right, it's my turn. Shit. What am I going to do? But no, it worked pretty well. We could have separated the cameras out, but given the way that like you move around the board in TTS, it would have been hard to like really link them to a given person's position.
Yeah.
So we just didn't do that.
Without another computer running Tabletop Simulator for just a camera overhead view.
Agreed. Yes. Yeah.
So maybe that's something that no, I was gonna say it's something we'll figure out in the future. Like, no, it's just not. If we do more Tabletop Simulator streams, it'll be the same way. Our pictures will be down in one corner.
Yeah.
It worked well enough. You could still see all of us.
And I think that definitely sort of helps us understand like what games we can and can't stream on this. So
yes,
if it's something that's like, I think it should be like more on games that have a strong center board versus a bunch of like
individual stuff
that
multiplayer solitaire
exactly
player boards.
Yeah. So we're gonna try and work some more of that in here since it doesn't look like COVID's going away anytime soon.
What you mean that like what 2 days of the last week were like their 2 highest days?
Yeah. Yep. Friday was the highest and Saturday was the second highest of it yet here in the US. Good old America.
But Trump said we were rounding the corner. That must have been the corner of the highest we've ever had, and it's just downhill from there. That's right?
Yeah.
You know, I wish I believed that. I expect to set a new record this weekend and then probably next weekend as well. So, yeah. Or it'll be like all the people on YouTube comments say, and that the virus is just going to vanish after November 3rd. So one of those 2 scenarios. I know which one I'm betting on.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's the game we streamed. That's what we all played together. It will be up on YouTube a little bit later. I'm gonna get that uploaded tonight after we record on Tuesday, and so it should be up by the time this episode comes out. If not, berate me in Slack or on Twitter or something for making promises that I don't keep.
And again, you don't have to edit like any of the beginning out because
I know
it all launched perfectly.
Sure did. But yeah. Other than that, I continued the trend of only playing digital things. Although Megan and I still have Spirit Island set up on the table, we haven't gotten back to it in a couple weeks. And we have unfortunately fallen behind on our Pandemic Legacy game. But I did play a game of Root on the app with Boyd and Matt, and I want to say...
Was it Chris Evans?
I think it was Chris Evans. And I did not do well at all. I was the Woodland Alliance, which is a faction I am thoroughly unfamiliar with, and I just got really, really, really badly stomped. I was never really able to get going. I got kind of an initial push of sympathy out, but they all hammered it, and then they kept large troop presences on the board, which, if you're not aware, is Woodland Alliance, and this is a fun fact I learned. If people have like 4 or more, I think, might be 3 or more troops in a clearing, it costs extra sympathy to, or supporter cards to spread sympathy into that clearing. It's like made it really hard for me to spread sympathy. And then I was using all of my cards to spread sympathy, and so I was never really able to do any revolts or anything. I think I did 1 revolt right towards the end of the game. Jester's awake now. Did 1 revolt right towards the end of the game, but then the game ended up winning, or ending, like I set the phone down because Megan came home, and I went to say hi to her, and then while she went in to shower after work, I picked up my phone again, and the game was over. Like, I couldn't reload, and I thought, like, oh, the game, like, fucked up and won't let me load back in, and then I jumped over to Slack to bitch about that, and they were all like, oh, man, that was a crazy fast victory, blah, 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 blah. And so it turns out Matt had been able to pull off using a dominance card where if he controlled all 4 corners of the map, he immediately won. And lo and behold, he controlled all 4 corners of the map, and so he immediately won. So it worked for me because it was a blessed mercy. I was going to go down in flames if that game had went the distance.
Bigger flames?
Yes, bigger flames. So I still really like it. I played a solo game at work the other day on my lunch break. And I played as Woodland Alliance because I wanted to get better with them. And I came in second. I did reasonably well, aside from the fact that the other AIs just would not do anything to try and combat the birds' amazing decree that they were building up. That, so they were doing like 8 actions a turn and just running away. And it was like, come on, somebody please find a way to interrupt them and make them turmoil, please. But yeah, it's fun. I still really like the app. They are apparently working on the Clockwork AI, bringing the Clockwork AI in from the Clockwork expansion. So that AI will play a little bit differently, give you kind of a different solo experience. And then there's some plans, I think, to vaguely start working on some new factions. So definitely looking forward to that because almost all of my really favorite factions are expansion factions.
This
so
is still
really
early access, right?
I don't think so. I think it's official release now at least for Android. It might be early access on Steam, but I don't think there's any real equivalent to that on Android app.
It is full release, but I mean, they weren't gonna put this out and wait to put it out for all of the factions to be done.
No. So, and there's no reason they should.
Yeah. The base game is done. Release it. We'll make a bunch of money, and that will fund all of the expansions.
Correct.
Yeah.
So yeah. That's what I played. So, Jeff, what about you? Did you play anything else besides Terraforming Mars and your Blood Bowl that will be later?
And 40K? I guess I'll just do 40K now.
Yeah, go for it.
So by 40K, I mean Warhammer 40,000, 40,000th, 9th edition. So I had picked up the 9th edition stuff with the Indominus box when that all got released from the Wizard's chest, because I was like, now I think is the time to get back into 40k, because Ant and I almost pulled the trigger once on 8th edition, because he was like, do you want to split in the box? And I was like, not really. And he was like, if you did that, it would have been all over. So so now I have. And I got together with Thursby, who's in on our regular Kingdom Death Monster, actually the original owner of Kingdom Death Monster, before Paul just was like, I'm going to buy everything. And now we play Paul's copy. He had, Thursby has an orc army with a K, and I have basically just the Indominus box contents of what I own for 40k right now until I go back for Thanksgiving, because I'm driving. So I don't fly, so I don't get COVID, so I can visit with family, and then I'll get my 40k stuff then, and I'll have a fuckload more. But for now, it was just Space Marines on orcs. We did the standard mission from the rulebook, which is you deploy 12 inches from the center, and you have a deployment zone, and you have reserves, but none of us had reserves, and you just sort of put down some control points that have to be 9 inches away from each other, 6 inches away from the edge of the board. You get victory points for those. You get a victory point for killing your enemy's warlord. And then, after the end of 5 turns, if you just annihilate the other player, you win. Or by the end of 5 turns, if you have the most victory points, you win. It was the peak of Horde versus small elite force. I think I had 24 models. Thursby had just under 100. And
Jesus.
Multiple of these units were like 30-ish in each squad. So that was like 90 of his. In these 3 squads, that was, I think, 90. He had 3 little killicans. Orcs are like orcs, except the reason their technology works is because they believe it. It's kind of like Peter Pan.
Okay.
If you believe hard enough,
you can make a trash can mech.
Yes, exactly, 100%. And your gun will never jam and just keeps shooting bullets. And that actually comes in mechanics in the game. So when he rolls dice to hit with guns, if he rolls a 6, it's like an exploding die. So every one of those 6s becomes another shot that he gets to shoot. So he was throwing a fuck ton of dice at me. But the strength of his weapons was either 3 or 4, which is equivalent or 1 less than my toughness. This is where a lot of the Games Workshop mechanics kind of come into each other. Because the strength was less than my toughness, he has to wound on a 5+. So they're orcs, and they just like shooting, so they never aim. They also were hitting on 5+. So it was like 5+, 5+, or 5+, 4+, and then, since they're just bullets, they're not fancy exploding bullets or lasers or anything like that, they didn't have any armor penetration on them, so I just got my general 3+ save. So he was throwing like 40 dice at me, but, you take away a third, 2/3 here, 2/3 there, it would come out to still like 4 or 5 wounds, and then I'd be like, all right, 3+. All right, I made them all. And then he'd do that a bunch until he got into close combat, and then he was throwing like 30 to 40 close combat attacks, but that with the same, it would just be like his weapon skill would come in there, and weapon skill now is way better than it used to be. So you used to have a weapon skill for, let's say, Space Marine, and then you had a weapon skill 3 Imperial Guardsman that's trying to stab the Space Marine with a bayonet. You would have to go to this fancy chart that would tell you the differences between weapon skills, and that's what your to hit would be. It was much more complicated than it is now. It's just a straight up stat. It's just your weapon skill is 3+. You hit on 3+. It doesn't matter what their weapon skill was, because that's what it used to. You used to compare weapon skills. Now it's just you hit on a 3+. So he hits on 3+, he wins on 4+, and then I roll armor rolls. But I'd be getting charged by groups of like 25 orcs on like 4 guys, and I'd be holding my ground and not take wounds. And then they'd pile in, and it would just be surrounding my like 4 dudes that were just fucking cutting down orcs left and right and just not taking wounds. Something that's changed since the old days of 3rd edition when I played most all models had 1 wound. It was characters that had sometimes more than 1, usually more than 1. That's why they were characters. They were like the big general of your army or named characters, something like that. They could take multiple hits before they died, but it still wasn't much, like 3. Now, almost everything has multiple wounds. So your super elite Space Marines, there's even less of them now, but like your general Space Marine has 2 wounds now instead of 1. So that that tactical squad that used to be able to take 10 wounds and wipe out now can take double that. So it really feels like they're taking damage without taking those huge losses. And I posted a bunch of pictures on Slack. Like at the top of the 3rd turn, I took a comparison picture of how many casualties I'd taken versus how many he'd taken. I literally lost 1 Space Marine, and he'd lost like a Killican and probably 15 to 20 orcs. But in like the scheme of things, that was about the same amount of power level that we lost. Because his are super cheap and disposable, where mine are like super elite, get a lot of attacks and fun stuff like that. I ended up being able to control some objectives, so I was getting the victory points for objectives pretty quickly. He was just rolling fuck tons of dice. Another thing about orcs is they don't really have armor. They do have a 6+ armor save, but pretty much anything worth anything will have at least a -1. So he wasn't getting any armor saves, which was fine. He just was saying like, oh, that feels bad. Except the part where he gets into close combat and throws 40 dice versus my 3 dudes who throw like 12. Those 12 are hitting on 2+, wounding on 3+, and then he gets no armor save, but he still did some damage. Ended up winning by mostly just wiping him out. I think the only thing he had at the end, once I got my like lieutenant and Justicar and a couple other close combat guys in, I got rid of most of his boys and ran over to go finish off the rest of the boys because they're orc boys with a Z. And I think we just skipped the final 5th turn because I think I had it on victory points at that point as well. And then all he had left was some shooters that were not going to like shooters even back in 3rd edition. They are a bad choice to take for orcs because all they have is the standard orc gun, and they're not very effective. They would be effective against like a horde army or something lighter armored than fucking Space Marines, but you at that point you should just take more of the guys that are the close combat dudes and just rush the Space Marines. But overall, it was a ton of fun. Need to smooth out a couple spots in the rules, like when you take a casualty, where do you take the casualty from? Is it within engagement range, or can you just take it from the back? Like if I'm shooting, can only the guys that I can see take the wounds? Because I remember that was the rule back in the day. It just wasn't very clear in the rules, but to learn them in general was very, very well laid out in the rule book. Under every paragraph of like, this is the shooting phase, it would have these little red bullet points of just like, these are the main things you need to learn from shooting, and that was more than enough to get a fun game in.
Okay.
Space Marines felt very elite and small versus that like
the horde,
huge horde, but it was pretty fun. I think if we got some more of like the heavy weapons in there, or maybe a vehicle or 2, that could add another like cool layer to it. But I do miss cool terrain because I had pretty much always played at board game stores like Total Escape Games up in Thornton. They have like a bunch of terrain and stuff pre-made and those huge tables that you can play these kind of games on. Of course, you can't do that now, but those are the kinds of stores I used to play at a lot, and so I miss terrain. And I have no way to ever build or keep terrain around to play. But fingers crossed we'll be able to do that sometime. Let's say this time next year.
You could always, for terrain, ask nicely if Zach will let you borrow all of his
Heroescape?
HeroScape. Yeah, I kept wanting to say Hero Quest. I was like, that's not right.
That's not right. I do have Hero Quest. I could use the little tiny furniture and chests. There you
go.
Yeah.
Or just play outside. Just doing Thursby.
No, it's fine. It's like 12 degrees.
Exactly.
Right now.
That's fine. It's a very snowy terrain.
Oh, it is certainly colder than 12.
Yeah.
But we'll talk about that in banter.
Yes. But yeah, 40K. It was a ton of fun. I would like to play again. Get Ant in there with his chaos armies and me, Thursby, Ant, and I think Ant has like one or two friends that he's kind of getting in, maybe. So once I get all my shit back over Thanksgiving, I'm gonna have way too much Warhammer shit. But I'm still very much enjoying painting them. Contrast paints are great. I've started basing everything, and all the new like technical paints for basing I love. And yeah, it's never been easier to spend way too much money on Games Workshop products.
Yeah, cool. Well, I'm glad you finally got to use all your cool stuff you've been painting for so long.
Yeah, still need to paint some more, of course, but who doesn't?
Yeah. So what about you, Zach? What have you been playing?
Well, on Sunday we were supposed to play Kingdom Death Monster, but then Jeff's car decided to just not be a car anymore.
It was a battery terminal.
Mm-hmm.
I got new terminals of the battery, and then not the part that connects to the battery, the part that connects to the rest of the car was loosened, and that's why it wouldn't start. So, fun fact.
So, after about 20 minutes or so, we decided to. We played the game.
I did give plenty of warning.
You did.
At least.
Yes. You're like, the car's not starting, it didn't work, so let's, you tried charging it or jumping it, and then after about 20 or so minutes, it was like, and no dice. So, so we decided to play just a couple games. We did, we played Actual Route, 4-player. We played on the lake map, suggested to us by Paul, who was playing the River Company. Shocking. But we had the birds, the Erie. We had the River Company. We had a Vagabond, and then we had, what was Thursby? Thursby was the fucking Woodland Alliance. Those assholes. And I was the moles. What are they called, Adrian?
The Underground Duchy?
Yes, that was it. So we had, two we had two players that actually like were wanting a presence on the board, and then we had 3 that didn't really care about it as much, right? So I set up in one, the corner opposite of Eric, who were the Erie, and then spread out a little bit, and then the Woodland Alliance proceeded to, because I had forgotten, or I didn't know, that rule you said about having 3 warriors to add extra influence, or whatever it's called, sympathy.
It limits Woodland Alliance's abilities.
So he proceeded to put 3 sympathy tokens inside of all of my shit, and then proceeded to just, really just fuck with my shit the entire game. And anytime I couldn't focus on him for a turn, he would then revolt and destroy my stuff. So when you know it, I got last.
That sucks.
Yeah. It's the Underground Duchy. Their whole thing is about having swaying ministers. And if I have to keep, and that involves like revealing cards in areas where my guys are to bring them out. And if I keep having to give the fucking Woodland Alliance cards in order to get rid of their shit, I don't have enough cards to actually get any ministers out except for the early ones. And then as soon as he would destroy my buildings, those early ones would go away, and then I'd be fucked. So that's basically what happened with me the entire time.
Yeah, that's not great.
Yeah. We had Eric, who was the Erie. He had his first commander. What are their dudes called? Like their main characters
for the Erie?
Yeah,
advisors.
The advisor.
Yeah. It's their advisor.
Yes,
and then he has like I think.
Yeah, and he has the viziers that help him. But yeah,
vizier. That's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, the first one that he brought out was the when you recruit one guy, you recruit two guys, and then he proceeded to have, it starts with he accidentally put them in the wrong spot, and we didn't pay attention to that, so it caused him to have an early revolt, because not only did he have the one beginning one, but then he also added a mouse onto that one. So every turn he was bringing in 4 warriors, and he didn't have his other vizier in battle. He had it in move, so he was spreading out a lot, but he wasn't fighting anything. And as soon as we saw that he was getting ready to go into decline because of that, we were just like, all right, well, we're not going to fight him this turn. And then so he had an early decline that way, and he was able to get about halfway through, near the end of the game, and he ended up going over me, but that's because, once again, Thursby just kept fucking up everything that I owned, so I couldn't do anything else. Paul was the river company. He was, doing river company stuff, basically, like, getting all of his points from all of the warriors that we gave him, his dividends with trading posts. Thursby made the mistake of giving out 6 of his 10 warriors to Paul, and he was, expecting Paul to give them back, and understandably, Paul's like, you know what? No, why would I do that? And so, like, I think he had 2 guys on the board. Thursby had 2 guys on the board, and then 2 officers, and then everything else was with Paul. So he just had to keep doing his sympathy stuff all over me. And then Jason, who, Paul's roommate, he joined us, and he was playing a vagabond, and Paul got one of the vagabond special pack that you get from BGG or wherever it is, promos, that has 10 different vagabonds in there. One of which is basically a cat with a pumpkin on his face. His name is Scoundrel, and his ability is he can get rid of his torch, which is the only torch you get in the game, which lets you, uncover ruins, and a lot of quests require it. But he can throw it in an area and basically nuke an entire section to where nobody can do anything else in that. But we had misread it and thought that was just something he could do. So he never actually did it, but it was always anytime he's like, all right, I'm going to use my torch, and everyone was just like, oh God, here it comes. But no, Paul ended up winning the game. He got 9 or 10 points on his last turn, by just sending out a bunch of trading posts. And it's one of those things of there's nothing we could do to him at that point, because he had 1 trading post left, but it was completely protected by his guys, so there was no way we were getting to that. And then he had enough warriors that he'd been keeping for a while that he was able to put out 4 of the trading posts on 1 turn. But if he wasn't going to win, then Jason was going to win his vagabond. So, and Thursby was close third with, or I guess technically at that point, close second with Woodland Alliance, and then a very distant 4th and 5th for the Erie and the Duchy. I was not a fan of the Duchy and how they played, so I know there was some stuff I wasn't doing great, but I have no interest in trying them out again.
They're my favorite.
Yeah,
love the Duchy.
I still think the only ones I actually really like are the Erie, just because you're very much constrained by just all the crazy shit you have to do to not go into decline, and I guess I enjoy that, but so far I just haven't been really engaged with any of the other ones that I've played. But then after that we decided to play Magic Maze, and we had three new people. The first round ended up going pretty good, and we actually finished, I think, with still 2 sand timers left on everything, and then we found out at the end that in the beginning, when I was going to shuffle the tiles, Paul was like, no, you don't shuffle them, and I was like, okay, that's weird, but okay. So unsurprisingly, the tiles fed into each other really well. And so
don't shuffle the tiles. How are they set up to where you do or don't shuffle them?
So they're numbered on the bottom.
Okay.
So I just put them from 2 to 14. And then on our second game, we decided to we decided to add the security cameras, which the barbarian has to destroy. But we actually shuffled them up, and oh boy, did we get fucked when it came to like linking or like having characters explore. Because previously, a lot of it was like green was exploring, and then it ended up in another place that green could explore, and so forth. This one, it was like purple would explore, and then it would be like then you would need orange or green to explore on those, and then like green and orange were exploring somewhere else, and it caused that had like purple and yellow, and so it was like we kept having to switch, like go all like, across the board multiple times in order to explore anymore, and then. Eventually, we had we ran out of time, and we kept hitting the do nothing or the do something button in front of the person that could actually move it towards the timer, and they just had no idea what we were trying to do.
It sounds about like right for Magic Maze.
Yes, yeah.
So, is it supposed to be shuffled or not shuffled?
It is supposed to be shuffled.
Okay. Just making sure that Paul was wrong.
No, Paul was wrong, and
okay.
Yeah, and it made it a lot simpler in the beginning.
I'm sure.
So, yeah. And then I played half, let's say a third of City of Kings. And then we just got super screwed with what we were trying to do in the game. But it's a game similar to like...
You mean the Isle of Cats prequel?
Exactly, yes. Yeah. This one it's sort of an RPG game. Similar to... Let's see, what's a good one? Maybe like Too Many Bones or something like that, but it has a main board that you're trying to explore, and then eventually like creatures will come out, and there are these tiles that are like numbered from like 1 to 20, and then from like 21 on, and like 21 on are like boss tiles, but every tile, as you grab the top one, they will get progressively more difficult, but they have symbols on them that are like 2 green and then like 1 brown, and then those are basically augments that you grab from bags. So green are like medium or easy, brown is medium, and then red is hard. And it could be like, oh, and it has the ability to spit poison bolts, or it can move extra, or it has extra range, or it can teleport to somebody. So you're getting like randomness and variability from the monsters that way, because otherwise, because it's the same stats each time. You like a 6 is always a 6, but the things you grab from the bag can really change what it can do. But Paul was saying that it ramped up pretty quick, but it was like it felt like we fought like a 3 and a 4, and we're like, this isn't that bad. Like it's got like 10 health, and then it does like 1 or 2 damage to somebody, and then the next one was like, oh, this one has shields. It only has 8 health, and it's doing like 1 damage to one person, and then like or 2 damage to one person, and then 1 damage to everybody else. And then we decided we got one of these quest cards. So one of the things you can do is there are ends that you can go and basically get quests. It's a stack of like 150 cards in it. Like you draw it, and it can either tell you to go visit this area and you get something, like you get XP or items, or it's you choose like one of 2 options to happen. And one of the ones that we drew was you can choose to either spawn this next monster, so I think it was a 5, and it gets an extra green modifier, or you skip it and you go to number 6, and you immediately get like 5 XP, and everybody like share, like we have 1 XP track, and so when everybody when that levels up, everybody levels up. You have stats that you can increase, and you have skills that you can take, standard RPG stuff. So we decided to skip the first, or skip number 5 and go into number 6. And Jesus Christ, it felt like we were fighting like an endgame boss. It was ridiculous. It immediately went to, okay, now it has 25 health. It recovers 3 health a turn. It has, it will attack somebody for 7 damage. It also has 3 retaliate, so anytime you attack it, it does 3 damage to you. And everybody, most people were at like 5 or 6 health total. And so, like, we only had one person that could actually survive one hit from him. But he also then, like, sent fireballs to everybody that did, like, 2 damage at the start of their turn. And then he teleported to the closest person and then made everybody run around in a panic. And like, at that point, we were like, we just basically just gave up at this point because we're like, I was the only person that could even
That's where the
damage.
half game came into into play.
Exactly, yeah. It may have been that we were just pushing too hard in the beginning to get stuff done, but it just was ridiculous.
You weren't grinding enough.
No, apparently not. Because I mean, we didn't buy any items, so that was obviously a bad start. But it like just he said that the monsters like ramped up, but like that was just like not a ramp as much as it was a cliff.
Yeah,
like it just went straight up, and we're like, well, what the fuck were you supposed to do with this? So I don't know. It had
stab it with your sword until it dies.
That's what I did until I died.
Yes.
And yeah. But otherwise, I mean, it was interesting enough. There was some cool stuff there, but like that really left sort of a sour taste on my mouth right now. So I'd probably I would give it another try at some point, but that was super rough. But that's about it. That is what I have played.
Right on. Well, then that wraps up what we've all been playing, which lets us move on over to some bantery banters. Which we've got a weather update. It fucking snowed, and it's been cold as fucking shit here in Colorado.
Yeah, very true.
It's been so cold.
Yeah,
which will
high of 19, low of 9.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Which I've heard has helped the fires out in the mountains, especially
The largest and second largest
Yes.
Colorado fires of all time.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Which especially like there was one that was getting close to Estes Park, and this helped like
It was very
it-
close to Estes.
Yeah,
Like,
Estes and Rocky Mountain National Park.
correct.
I think it
was in Rocky Mountain
Yeah.
National Park.
I
the-
couldn't remember if it actually made it in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then this helped contain it to stop. Like I heard they like Estes Park was originally at like mandatory evacuation, and now it's just like voluntary. So
that's good.
That's good. Yeah.
There was
Yeah.
a fire right near work up at Avery that was real bad 2 weeks ago because it was like right there on the hills. It was the Friday of the medal announcements for GABF, and we're all hanging out in the garden waiting for the announcements, and then we're like, we have to get the fuck out of here because the smoke was so bad. I got home, and all my clothes smelled like I was sitting around a bonfire all day. I got in my car the next day, and my car still smelled like smoke.
Jesus.
Yeah. But we won a gold at GABF, so
Hey,
fuck
small victories.
yeah. Big victories. Fuck you. We won for the fruited wheat ale category. It was the Lilikoi passion fruit wheat ale, aka White Rascal with passion fruit in it.
Yeah, which you had just given me some of that like a week before.
Yeah, because you were hiking around and we had lunch. It's late lunch.
So yeah, we swung in and got some food with you. It worked out because it was like right when you guys opened, basically.
Yeah, 3:00.
But yeah, so like you'd given me a 6-pack of super fresh all day IPA.
Yep.
Which was delicious when I got home and drank some. And then you'd given Megan some of the Lilikoi. Lilikoi. And so yeah, then she hadn't had any because like she worked a bunch the next few days, so she doesn't tend to drink on nights when she works.
Probably smart.
I mean, I don't know how she does her job and then doesn't come home and drink heavily. Especially in the middle of a national pandemic.
Yes.
But so by the time she was going to have some, they had won. And so I was like, just so you know, Jeff didn't just give you any beer. He gave you the GABF 2020 gold winning beer.
Yeah.
So
that was our first medal since 2015. And I think 2015 Rascal won a silver. And it was the longest drought of medals since Avery opened, or at least since they got their first medal in like 93, which I think was for IPA.
Damn.
When there was probably, let's say, 99% less breweries in the country.
Yes. Although I still think Avery IPA is one of the better IPAs out there.
Yeah.
It is a really good beer.
That's what everyone drinks at work. I want to say its claim to fame is the first packaged IPA in Colorado.
I could believe that.
Yeah.
Just because I have nothing better to do than just be like, yeah, sure, I'll believe that.
Just like Strange was the first tap room only in Colorado.
Yes.
Like not a brew pub.
Again, sure,
I guess.
I'll believe.
Sure, yeah. Like okay, whatever. What are they at? How many years are they at now? Strange. They're
10.
10?
They had their 10th anniversary this year.
That's the one we went to, right, Zach?
Yes, that is the one you guys went to.
10th.
I was jealous that I could not go to that.
Yeah, I remember going to their 7th anniversary. That's the last one I remember. They had like a mini beer fest in back. It was great.
But yeah.
So that's the beer update, I guess.
That's beer and weather
and I'm drinking a tweak right now. My boss had brought in I'm drinking an Uncle Jacob stout. My boss had brought in a bunch of his cellar because he was just like, I need to get rid of this. I have too much beer. That's what I do often. And he had a bunch of gold foils in there, so having at it. 15.9% beer. I'm only halfway through, so we'll see what happens at the end of the podcast.
So only at 7.5%. Good to hear.
Mm-hmm. That's definitely how that works.
That's how that works.
Yeah, you said half. I'm just that's just math, man.
That's just math. Math.
As any drunk will tell you. That's just.
Let's see other bantery things.
Have I talked any about Kuma's opening here in Denver at all?
I believe so.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I'm pretty sure you talked because you guys went, and I think I even talked about, maybe not, but I went with Paul like 2 weeks after you guys went, and we only got the small lunch burgers, and those were like full fucking burgers. They were not small.
They're like 5.5 ounce. They're still very thick, but they're not as big.
I mean, I couldn't imagine like what the full, like if that's the lunch burger, I can't imagine what the full burger is like.
It's a lot.
You don't have to imagine. You just have to go there, and then you will know.
Yes.
I mean, maybe I'll take Megan there when we're out running errands on Wednesday.
It's a good
We'll
spot.
go get some.
I like it.
Go get a
burger. If when you get back, you want to just do nothing for the rest of the day, that seems like
let's
a great
say
idea.
Hibernate for the rest of the day.
Maybe we can get them to go, and we can take them to on Wednesday. We're going to a drive-in of original Ghostbusters.
Is that the only movie they're playing?
It is. Yes.
You might survive the movie. Awake.
Yeah. It's through my work. They're putting up like a 60-foot screen.
That's cool.
Our upper parking lot. Yeah.
There's even like a discount for over a certain amount to go that you can find online.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
Kuma's is still great.
Yeah.
I want to eat it right now. I just want to eat it right now.
Right. I was legitimately impressed. Like, burgers are arguably one of my single favorite things on the planet. And so when I can find like a really, really good one, I really appreciate that. And yeah, Kuma's was.
That's real good.
They were up there.
Yeah. But now I can get it whenever I want. That's going to be the hard part. That's the dangerous, difficult part.
Mm-hmm.
If I need to put on some weight for a roll or something, I can just go there and be good.
if you want to go into a bulking phase.
Yes. Cultivating mass.
Exactly. I'm not going to do a sports update because the Broncos are just not good at all. They did beat the Patriots in Foxborough for the first time since like 2006.
Wow.
But then that was like 2 weeks ago, or like last week, and then this week they got raffle stomped by the Chiefs and are the first time. It's the first time they've started 0-3 at home in like, I don't know, since like the late 90s.
My friend invited me to a game Sunday.
You didn't miss much.
No, this coming Sunday, so I might be going to a Broncos game if they don't just shut down all fan attendance, because that's the way everything is looking right now.
I'm surprised
in 6 days.
Yeah, I'm surprised that they're still, because the city itself increased its like restrictions, and so I'm surprised they didn't apply that to Broncos games, because that was part of the
level.
Yeah, because like part of the Broncos' whole pitch was like they were like, oh, like with these rules of these crowd sizes, we can make that happen with like 10 different crowds that won't intermix and won't intermingle in the stadium or something. And the city was like, okay, yes, if you can manage that. But then if the city just made their requirements stricter, I would think that would apply to the Broncos too. So I don't know.
We will see what my friend says. But I don't remember who they're playing at all. Chargers.
I don't even know.
They're playing the Chargers.
Oh, great. So we'll probably lose that game too. Their schedule, I didn't really follow it because
You've totally checked out of Broncos fandom.
Yeah, well, even aside from the Broncos being bad this year, because they didn't look like they were going to be bad, but even in the offseason, like I just couldn't get excited like for football this year. Like with everything else going on in the world right now, like I find it very hard to care about fucking football of all things. Like there's way bigger things right now. And like there's been a couple times like I even tried to watch games and it was just like, why am I doing this? There's other things that I can do that are far more productive. So we'll see if I ever go back to like football in general. I probably will once life gets to the point where I can.
Hockey's way cooler.
I've tried to get into hockey so many times. I do love hockey, like especially going to a hockey game. It is awesome,
and it's cheap. It's like $35 for like the far back tickets at the Pepsi Center. Not the Pepsi Center anymore. Fun fact: I read the other day that it would be called the Ball
Arena.
Arena, like ball canning, ball mason jars.
Yeah,
those fuckers that keep shorting us cans so we can't package beer.
But just having a hard time caring about sports in general. And yes, I would like to care more about hockey. Part of the problem is I don't understand hockey, and I don't have anybody who's like
just watch it
taught me.
Doesn't matter. Sure. You don't have to care. It's. I think hockey is the best sport America has.
You know, I'm not gonna like try and disagree with you.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's necessarily true, but
I don't know if it's necessarily true either. I got a new phone, finally.
Nice.
I got the new iPhone 12 with the 5Gs. First new phone in over 5 years. Been holding on to my last phone was the last iPhone that had a headphone jack.
Okay.
Having a new phone is nice after 5 years. You can see the significant differences that phones have happened in that time.
I could believe that.
Yeah. I can play Genshin Impact on my
can.
phone. Which is like a full-on anime Breath of the Wild clone. So I have been playing a bit.
Free to play too.
Yes, it is a gacha game, which is basically the loot box, the game. Very much like the Asian territory type free-to-play game, which hasn't really broken over into the West, but this one sure has. It's fun. It's copyright infringing so much on mechanics of Breath of the Wild. But yeah, playing some of those cool big games on my phone now is neat. When I couldn't do that before.
Yeah.
I can believe that.
Yeah. Got a year free of Apple TV. I can watch that Tom Hanks like World War
Greyhound?
II naval movie.
Yeah.
Like Wolf something.
I think
Wolfpack
it was Greyhound.
Greyhound.
Yep.
Yeah.
You can also watch Ted Lasso. I've heard good things about that.
Okay. I
have
know
not heard
literally
of
nothing about
these
Apple
things.
TV because I've literally cared nothing about anything on Apple TV.
I think I still have it for the next, I want to say, 3 weeks or something like that. And I haven't used it once.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a new phone. It's nice. It's nice getting a new phone. It was a trial because I got home early last Friday, and I was just sitting in my room at my computer, and I had the UPS tracking thing up, and apparently he had come and gone without me hearing him. He put the note on the door and everything, and I was like, fuck. And it was like, we'll try again Monday. And I called, I was like, you motherfuckers. I'm going to come pick that shit up. But there's a UPS distribution center like right in Commerce City, so it's just right up the road from me. So I was able to just go up there and be like, all right, phone please.
Nice.
And I was able to get my phone Friday. I dropped him off some beer. And as you could expect from someone working at a UPS distribution center, they were extremely excited about alcohol.
Seems right.
He was very thankful, and it was like I was like, oh, I was gonna go have to pick up beer after work. Now I don't have to go pick up beer. I'm gonna go get your phone. And I was like, yes, I made someone's fucking day.
Nice.
I like how you've turned into Ant in regard to just giving everyone beer at all times.
Beer is a commodity that can be traded for literally most things.
Yes. Cool. I think that probably about wraps up banter, or probably
Zach
should.
has banter.
No, I got all my achievements in Hades. I tried.
Ooh,
yeah,
all the achievements.
all the achievements.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Damn.
There's still 2 more things I want to do though, and that's one, I've got to just get the last bond for Cerberus, which is apparently I just have to pet him enough, and I thought I had petted him enough, but then it didn't count all the times I pet him before it got out of early access, I guess. So I gotta fucking do that again.
I did read something about that. People were asking, I'm like, how do I do this?
Yeah. And then the other one is to get the 3rd Skelly statue, which is to beat the game at 32 heat.
And it goes up to 50, right?
It does, yes.
Okay.
And so the last achievement that I got was to beat it with 16 heat, which is to get the second Skelly statue. And then I tried like basically doubling the heats, to get to that 32, and fucking hell, that is hard. The first time I got lucky, and I got. Go ahead.
The time one seems the worst.
Yeah.
I could never get like I did try the time ones, and I was like, no, the time one is clearly not going to be what I do.
The time one works for like normally I always have the 9-minute one on because that's never a problem except for like 1 or 2 aspects of weapons, and it just means like. It also, like, in the first stage, you can't go fight Chiron because that's going to take a couple minutes that you may not have. But the first time I was using the Arthur sword, and I actually got to the second stage of Hades with it. But he messed my shit up quick with that, because the problem is that. You have to. There are a couple ones that I just always try to avoid in terms of the heat, the packs of punishment. Like the enemies move 20% quicker and do 20%. Like they move 20% quicker and attack 20% quicker, or having to disable your nightmare talents like from the bottom up, and then. And then Hades, having to fight him with extreme measures. But when you're going to 32, you just have to, there are a couple I can avoid, but there are just some I have to take. And fucking hell, it just whittled me down. And then I tried doing it on 2 other weapons, and I got halfway through, and then I died. And so I'm just trying to figure out. The problem is that it seems like the best weapon for doing that is one that I haven't invested in at all. Like the certain aspect, I haven't invested at all. And
Which weapon?
It's the rail with the
gun?
air, the gun with the
just straight up fucking gun.
Yes, the straight up gun with the Eris aspect that when you stand in your impact of the bomb, you get to do extra damage for 8 seconds.
Oh, okay.
And if you get that up to max, then it's 80% extra damage, and you just always do that, and you're just wiping the face with shit.
My first win on my crazy early run compared to other people's first clear was with the gun. As soon as I got the gun, I was like, I'm gonna use the gun, and then I got a good thing that was it reloaded every time I dashed.
Nice.
Yeah, and so that was nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so I've gotten really close to that one, but once I will feel complete with the game once I do that 32 run. But I've seen people do 32 runs with no nightmare talent at all. So that's no death defiance, no increase. Yeah.
No, fuck those people.
Yeah, right.
So there's an alternate to each one of those talents as well?
Correct. Yes. For the nightmare, yeah, there's an alternate for each one of those.
How do you get those?
You should be able to just switch, but it might be something that they unlock at some point.
Okay.
Yeah. But one of the major ones that I use the alternate version of is for the casts, you can just you can have up to 3, but there's another one, the opposite version of that, where you only have 1, but it just it respawns.
You don't have to go catch it.
Yeah, you don't have to catch it. Yeah, it respawns either 5, 4, and then 3 seconds. So, and especially if you get in the game, you get a cast, an extra cast from Chaos or from whoever. It just lets you those 2 respawn every 3 seconds. So you can if you get any good cast builds, it really helps for those.
Hades is a good game.
Yeah, it's real good. Definitely play it if you got a Switch or Steam.
Anything. Really.
Anything, yeah.
Just do it. Play it.
Keep thinking about getting
We
it.
got Paul to finally start playing, and he's been enjoying it.
And Paul hates roguelites.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
Yeah, it's extremely good.
And
Yeah.
it has
right on.
It has a real cool mode. It's called God mode that if you are hesitant about the difficulty of it, it's every time you die, you get slightly stronger, like permanently. And so it only helps you when you fuck up. So it doesn't make the game easier unless you're having trouble with it. So.
And I want to say it doesn't lock anything behind that mode. It just, you can play it and turn it off when you think you're good enough, or just
Correct.
keep playing with that.
Yep.
And all the achievements and everything you can still
Exactly.
get with that.
Yep.
Yeah. It's sort of just like,
it's there if you want to.
It is very accessible.
Yes, it's very accessible, and they want you to be able to experience the story. So, and all the shit ton of voice acting, the so many lines that I don't understand how
I've played it a lot, and you've played it a lot more, and I don't think I've heard the same thing twice. Banter complete.
Banter complete.
Indeed. Which that I think moves us over to let Jeff continue to ramble about Blood Bowl in this week's Bloody Minute.
There'll be some short rambles. The last two games of this Season 2 of the Bash League, where we had our fancy free 6 skills at the beginning of the season. My first game was against the Old World Alliance, which is the second newest team, because the Snotlings have been released. But this was, add these 3 sprues into a box, and we'll call it a team. It was my Nekhara Vandals, my Tomb Kings, versus straight out of GW, the Old World Alliance. It was a fine game. I ended up getting 5 casualties to 4 casualties. He got 2 kills, but they all regenerated, so that was totally fine. I bashed the absolute crap out of him, but I just wasn't getting enough removals. It was like a know-nothing game. There was a touchdown by him on his 7th turn. I had some rough last-second dodges that I needed, and for how little dice he was rolling, he was still 38% skulls in both downs. But Old World Alliance is a mix of humans, dwarves, and halflings. The dwarves mostly come with block, so all of those both downs he was getting weren't really hurting him. But every time he broke armor, which was a lot, he had 9 injury rolls off of 24 blocks. He only in injury rolls, rolled 7 or higher. There was no 2 through 6 in his rolls, period, for injury rolls. So he had either a stun with a Mighty Blow into KO, or removal. That's all he had all game. Which was not good for me, and I wasn't able to come back, and ended up losing 0-1 on that one. Which, even with all my casualties, I couldn't get the ball across the pitch into the end zone. Didn't feel great. I still had 39% skulls in both downs. I'm glad I had so much block on my Tomb Guardians, because I think I rolled 3 blocks in a row, double both downs, which they have block, so nothing happened, but didn't feel great. Made 66 blocks, got 5 casualties off that game. He had taken dual chainsaws with his inducements, which I quickly removed. He had 3 bribes on top of that, so if they didn't miss Nick's game, or worse, I would have been able to... they would have just kept coming back. Thankfully, they did not. Sadly, that one ended in a loss, which basically claimed my bottom half for the season. My last match was actually against the first place in the league, which was the Chaos Renegades. They are 3 big guys, Minotaur, Troll, and Ogre, an orc, a human lineman, and then a goblin, a skaven, and a dark elf. He had a couple claws, but that never came into play in any way, shape, or form the whole game. I was too busy just getting the shit kicked out of me all game. We ended up in 3-3 with casualties, but he had a ton of removals. I ended up scoring early, and like my 5, and I got 3 removals. I got like an injury, a badly hurt, and a KO. He had a bunch of turnovers. He came back and badly hurt one of my guys. I think it was one of my throwers. And then I went on a second half, like 8 turnover streak, like 4+ pickup, 4+ pickup, 4+ dodge, 4+ catch, 1 die block, 4+ dodge, 2+ go for it, like, and I burned almost all of my rerolls on skulls, which were fine. Like, my skulls were down, below average, but I just couldn't get anything going with my injury rolls. I rolled 1 casualty all game. I had a 9 KO, which turned into a casualty, and then I think it was his chainsaw counted as a casualty for me through foul, I believe. But 51 blocks, 3 casualties, lost 2-1. The worst part is I finally, after 2 seasons, in the very last game of the second season, took my first and second casualties on Tomb Guardians. So Tomb Guardians don't really have a nega trait, as I've explained before. They have Decay. Decay is not something like Bonehead or Wild Animal where you have to roll for them to activate or lose tackle zone. It's just if you take a casualty, they take 2 casualty rolls. And that happened twice. One on a no-nothing 1 die block that broke, casualtied, and then killed my Tomb Guardian, which really sucks because he was one of my block Tomb Guardians and one of my Tomb Guardians that had the free skill at the beginning of the first season. And then he misnext gamed another Tomb Guardian, which doesn't matter because it's the end of the season. But having a Tomb Guardian fail the regen and then die super sucks. Especially because my Tomb Guardian that didn't have block got block, so I would have had 4 fucking Tomb Guardians with blocks. I would have had 4 doubles on my 4 big guys, which is absolute pure madness and insanity for a Season 2 Tomb Guardian team. But sadly, that did not happen. Womp, 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 womp. Ended in a loss in that one. So I think we still have 1 or 2 games left to go for the season. As I click over to the tournament. Yeah, two more games to go. I will probably end up in 7th of 8th place. Or no, I won't. Because Ant is right below me. So... and the person that's in last place has no chance. So I am locked in for 6th. 6th place for this season. And that's Blood Bowl.
Right on. Congratulations on being locked into top 10.
There's only 8 teams.
Still top 10, though.
You know,
still top 10.
Exactly. You got to pick your battles. You know, it's all about how you phrase it.
Yeah, I ended up at 1-3-3, which is super disappointing. My last 2 games were both losses. Only 1 win this season. You know what? Still not as bad as 7th and 8th place. But I'd had higher hopes for how my team would perform after all those awesome skills I got. But clearly, have some of the worst armor versus some of the bashiest teams in the game and in one of the bashiest leagues I've ever played in just didn't pan out. Ant's orc team came out even worse, and they're actually strong and tough. So
Gotcha.
yeah, sadly that might be just the end of that team because I doubt I'll be able to play them in any other league with that free skill thing. So
Gotcha.
but the new rule set should be out next month, and so we'll see how that goes. They're starting to put out all the rule previews and stuff for that.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure you'll keep us posted.
Indeed, I will.
And you guys ended up canceling your Kingdom Death because of Jeff's car troubles, and so I think that lets us move right on in to some news and Kickstarters.
Yes. First up in news this week, Splotter has announced a new game, not just a reprint, not just a old game
Expansion?
They're doing an expansion to, but a new fucking game.
Yeah. So I think it was Yorun. Might have been both. of the guys from Splatter. I think it was Jeroen, went on Heavy Cardboard almost 2 weeks ago. By the time you're listening to this, it will certainly have been, or 3 weeks ago, sorry. Almost 3 weeks ago, and talked about a lot of stuff going on with Splatter, hinted at a bunch of reprints, so they're not, done doing reprints. But they also introduced a little bit about their next new game, which will be Horseless Carriage. And it is a game about developing the first automobile. You'll research, set up factories, predict market, buy and sell parts, and ultimately trying to, build and sell the early automobiles, aka horseless carriages. They say it will be kind of a typical Splatter, semi-cooperative element, lots of interactivity, kind of trying to build off of what everybody else is doing. And
there's going to be the consumer market on top of that, to where people are actually buying these cars.
Sure.
Yes, that is something I read.
Okay.
There's manufacturing and the consumer portion in this game.
Okay. Also, a little bit, they mentioned they are keeping control of reprints for a lot of their larger and more popular titles, like Antiquities, Zimbabwe, Food Chain, stuff like that. But they were happy with Capstone's reprint of Busts, which is one of their smaller games, and they might do more third-party stuff with some of their more obscure stuff.
Good for Capstone.
So people are hoping for maybe like Duck Dealer or Greed Inc. Although, so in the Reddit thread that I pulled a lot of this information from, somebody said John Company was a better version of Greed Inc., which immediately kills all interest I ever had in Greed Inc. Because if John Company is the better version of something, I can't imagine how much I would hate the other thing. But yeah. We'll see. They're shooting for an SN 2021 release, so we'll see if there even is an SN 2021.
This time next year.
In about a year, yeah.
It'll just be everyone else is having a good time, and the U.S. is quarantined for the rest
that
of the world.
Seems like, I feel like there's been a movie at some point where some country went into
28
zombie
days
apocalypse.
later.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah,
Yep.
we're gonna be the Great Britain of 28 days later.
Yep.
Here in America. Maybe Mexico eventually will build and pay for a wall to keep us in.
Yeah.
Anyhow, next up on news.
There is a new version of Descent coming, but it is not a third edition.
Yeah, don't call it a third edition. They're going to be touchy about that.
Nor a comeback.
Yeah. So Fantasy Flight Games announced Descent Legends of the Dark.
I want to say they showed off the box at Gen Con, but gave no details.
Okay. If they did, I completely missed that bit of information. They now actually have a bit of this up as of the 22nd on their website. And so this is the next chapter. Don't call it a new edition in Descent. The definitive cooperative dungeon crawling board game. We keep joking about don't call it a third edition, and that one of the first things in this article is this a third edition? It is not a third edition, although it shares the realm of Terranoth and the top-level identity of a dungeon-crawling board game. We see it as a new addition to our catalog rather than a third edition. So they just don't want to call it a third edition, but by all accounts, it sounds like it's a third edition.
I would say that edition implies that there is stuff coming from that previous version into this version, which they have said, but even with Twilight Imperium, they called it fourth edition.
Yeah.
See,
but nothing from third edition came over.
Yeah, see, I think it the other way. I think a new edition implies that they are leaving everything else behind and starting fresh.
Mm-hmm.
But
that's what I think of when I hear of new edition. Like D&D's in its 5th edition. Each time they change editions, they leave all of the old stuff behind, and it's a whole new game, and you need to get all new shit for it.
And I think their mistake was they did Descent 2nd edition and made a compatibility pack for everything that was in 1st edition, which this is not compatible with anything in a previous Descent edition.
Yeah, they did the similar thing with Mansions. Mansions 1st edition and then Mansions 2nd edition, and you could get the crossover pack to bring some of your Mansions 1st stuff.
The minis
over.
and tiles. Yep.
Yeah. But yeah, so this one is completely apart. Like Jeff said, you cannot use any of your old Descent stuff in the new Legends of the Dark, which is also going to be confusing since the first one was Journeys in the Dark.
Yes.
So
These are
Journeys in the Dark and
of
Legends of the Dark.
These are legends of that journey.
Sure.
Clearly.
The biggest thing they're doing is they have rebuilt the game from the ground up. So Descent First Edition was a 1v like 3 or 4 game with an overlord and was very much built around that competitive side of things. They eventually did get the app, which made it cooperative. Like the app ran the overlord rule part of the game, and they used a similar, like the success of that informed in like Imperial Assault, and then eventually led to like Mansions of Madness leaving behind its overlord in second edition and going pure cooperative with the app.
And even
that's
that
what
one
they're
was
doing
like
here.
the overlord in Mansions of Madness was like, I don't really want to win. I want to have everyone to have a good time, I guess.
Well,
to make that
you
game
had to
even
approach it like it because that one wasn't balanced well. Like you could, as the overlord in Mansions first, you could just raffle stomp the investigators.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe it was
you
that
were
way
more
in
of a
Descent.
DM than you were an overlord trying to win the game.
Yes, if you wanted your players to have fun, that's how you should have played.
In D&D, the DM's not always trying to win.
No. Despite how some people play.
Correct.
Anyway, so they rebuilt the app from the ground up and the game from the ground up for this new edition to make it fully cooperative. It's going to have the app from day one. And they say that like with this new app, like the enemies have adaptable strategies, complex status effects, different triggers, all that are managed by the app. More abilities in app to develop your heroes based on what choices you make in the scenarios. They're adding a bunch of like in between scenario activities like crafting, shopping, upgrading equipment, things like that. It sounds like they're trying to make this even more of like D&D the board game. Than it already kind of was as a dungeon crawl board game. Initially, at least starting off, there's 6 new heroes. They have pretty sweet art for them. They each apparently play quite a bit differently. They do different things. The
art style looks much different than any other Terranoth stuff I've seen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually really like the art style.
Much more colorful.
I'm a big fan of a lot of those character pieces.
Yeah. They've introduced a new thing in this one called the Ready action, which lets you flip your sheet or card to the opposite side. And so this is one of the things I think is really cool. So the player boards are all double-sided, and they have different abilities on each side. So you can like ready to give yourself some slightly different abilities, maybe change like what your fatigue limits are and things like that, which that's cool in and of itself. They also have definitely taken note of the popularity of like card crafting. And so you could take like a spear and put it in a sleeve and then put like a sword or a hammer or something else, another different weapon also in that sleeve. And so you can use the ready action to switch between which weapons you have just by flipping that card over, which I think is kind of a cool way to do that.
And of course, it'll have minis and all that fun stuff people love.
Yeah.
It's also quite expensive at looking at $175.
God.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, but I mean, with how big this box looks, it might have a fuckload of content in it.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, they even talk about the like for building the map. You'll start off with perhaps only a single tile as you move deeper. The app will direct you to place more and more tiles. The combination of double-sided map tiles and underlays gives unparalleled depth to the number of scenarios, and that depth is elevated with the addition of vertical levels and 3D terrain. So
in this
that
example,
box is
the
gonna have
app
just
shows
a ton of
like,
shit.
The app shows like these water tiles that will be underneath the like floor tiles that you're putting on, so it gives some layering to. It's not just dungeon walls that you're walking around. It seems to be the next big step in what Fantasy Flight's going to do with these sort of dungeon crawler games. I think they still have the Star Wars license for a little while, but I doubt they're going to ever do a second edition.
Probably
of Imperial
not.
Assault. I just wish they would do
not.
more with the app The app campaign I played was so fun. They did a second one, but that's still missing a ton of content that is trapped in that Overlord version.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting, like reading on a little more here. The 3D terrain isn't just decorative. You can interact with it, like taking tomes off of shelves, cracking open the booby trap chest, or climbing a tree to scout out the terrain ahead. So that'll be interesting to see how they actually implement that while still like giving just simple actions, so that it's easy to like teach and play. You know, so it's not like D&D where it's like you can literally do whatever you want. Just tell me what you want to do and we'll figure it out.
Yeah, and I mean, or you could go spend $194 on HeroQuest and get a 31-year-old game.
That has not changed at all.
No.
Yeah.
That specifically hasn't changed. Like,
yeah, that's at $2.6 million, by the way.
Jesus Christ. But yeah, so this the base game is launching with Blood and Flame campaign, which they say is an epic story that goes to its own finale, but it's only the first act of the story, and that they are already planning acts 2 and 3 coming as their own expansions, packed full of full new content and the next full-length Legends of the Dark campaigns. So yeah, we'll see where that goes.
Yeah,
and how they do this.
It seems good.
I gotta say, like, so I've always been vaguely interested in Descent. And one thing I am excited about is hopefully this coming out will mean that everybody's going to sell their old Descent stuff for cheap, so I can snap them up just to use as minis.
I think I have the base game of the second edition floating around here somewhere.
Well, if you want to sell it cheap, I might buy it.
Guess
just
how
for
many
the
times
minis.
I've played it?
Once? None?
None-ish.
None-ish?
None-ish, yeah.
None or lower, yeah.
Yeah.
None or lower. But also, like, this sounds like the kind of thing, like, especially with it being app driven, this sounds like something I could definitely get behind for like a fun little thing for like Megan and I to either run through a 2-player campaign in our free time, like we've been doing with some of the Mansions and Madness stuff, or like we're doing with Pandemic Legacy, or just, I want to take a break from DMing with my normal D&D group. Maybe we play through a campaign of this.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm actually kind of intrigued. The $175 price point hurts, but it seems like they got a lot of stuff to back it up, maybe. So we'll see.
We'll see.
That's it for news.
We move on to Kickstarter. First up in Kickstarter, we have For Sale, Autorama.
Yeah.
For Sale, Autorama is very well funded, $27,000 of its $12,000 goal, 1,100 backers, about a day left to back as the time you hear this, but you can get its most popular pledge level for $29.
Indeed. So this is the latest Kickstarter from Eagle Games, and it is a standalone like new game in the For Sale universe, and also includes a expansion that can be used in either Autorama or Classic For Sale. So the expansion is the first thing they talk about. It is the Advisors expansion, and basically adds a new phase to the game of For Sale. So instead of just doing the like buying and then selling phase, now you do the advisor phase where you bid on different advisors that will offer end game bonuses. So for instance, they show 2 here at the very start of the Kickstarter. The financial advisor is priced at $25, so it's a very expensive one. But for each remaining 1,000 you have, score an additional 1,000 at the end of the game. So that's obviously like going to be super powerful. The mechanic's a little bit lower priced at $7. If you offer the lowest valued vehicle, take the second lowest valued check. So as long as you're putting out shitty vehicles, you'll get slightly better checks. Yeah. Those seem interesting and can be used with either, like I said, Autorama or the base game. Autorama itself sounds like you play more or less just like For Sale, only now it's vehicles. So instead of selling houses, where like the shittiest one is a cardboard box and the most expensive is like a crazy, awesome, mansion. This one, like the cheapest one is like a rickety go-kart made from a barrel. And then like the higher priced ones are like sports cars and big old monster trucks and stuff. Comes with all new art from Quanchi Moria. You might know him from like Dinosaur Island and a bunch of other stuff. We are big fans of Quanchi's art here on MHGG. But yeah, they got a few different pledge levels, so you can pledge to get just advisors if you just want to add that to your regular game of For Sale.
The old edition, I guess, is that compatible with the old like red chip version? You know what I'm talking about?
Think so. It doesn't specifically say what. It just constantly says for those who already own For Sale and would like to add an experienced advisor's content. Which, given the fact that like I don't think I've ever noticed any difference, no matter what version of For Sale I was playing, I'm assuming that they're going to work fine with no matter which one.
Yeah, it looks like the money matches that. It might just be. So I know the older version they had like cardboard money. Whereas if you had like the travel one, it was like paper money. But either way, that's still like that's the only thing that would affect anything in the other one. Like these are stuff you choose beforehand, right? So
yeah.
And if you want to fuck it all, you can just get the metal money set.
And this is the thing that kind of frustrates me here is like so their pledge options is you can get just advisor. You can get Full House, which is classic For Sale plus the expansion, or you can, for $30, get Autorama plus the expansion. There's not an option to get For Sale, Autorama, and the expansion. And, like, I get it. Like, I guess if Autorama and For Sale are basically the same game, just one's houses and one's cars, maybe some people don't want to own both, but I kind of do. So...
I bet the pledge manager will have that option.
Yeah, I was gonna say maybe the $500 one, but I don't see it mention the expansion in that. So
sorry, $500?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's the whole Eagle full or the Griffin bookshelf series.
Yes.
Yeah. So, yeah. So I don't really know what to do here. They currently have no updates. Well, they have one update and one FAQ, neither of which. The FAQ is, how do I contact Eagle Griffin? And it's, send us an email. And then update one is, thank you, because it funded.
Yeah.
So, we'll see. We'll see. But yeah, that's For Sale Autorama from Eagle Games.
Next up on Kickstarter, we have Veiled Fate. Very well funded, $545,000 of its $100,000 goal, over 5,500 backers, but only about 2 days left to pledge this one at its most popular pledge of $85 dues.
Yeah. So Veiled Fate, I don't remember who brought it up. Somebody mentioned it in the Slack channel. I don't know. For some reason, I feel like it was Nick, but it probably wasn't. And then, yeah.
Let's just blame him.
Neither here nor there. Somebody mentioned it and shared like a video about it. And so checked it out. Seems kind of interesting. So it is a area control, social deduction kind of game for 2 to 8 players. And essentially what you're going to do in this game is you take on the role of one of the the gods. And then there are 9 demigods on the board that are going around having adventures. One of them is secretly your spawn, like your child or whatever. And so you want them to ultimately ascend to this throne. But you don't want everyone else to know which one you favor. So you have to kind of help and hinder all of them differently while still trying to make sure that ultimately yours is the one in the lead at the end of the game. They say here in the Kickstarter that it's super balanced to where you can do it 2 players dueling, or you can do 8 players where it's kind of wild and there's only one on the board that's not being controlled by someone. They also say that it works well with different personalities. A lot of social deduction games don't seem to work very well if you're not kind of boisterous. or willing to like lie openly. This one doesn't seem they claim that it fits better for a lot of different people. And yeah. The art's really interesting on this one. Kind of in some ways reminds me of the art that we were talking about for Descent.
Colorful.
Yeah.
Stylized. Reminds me a bit of Samurai Jack.
I'm not familiar with I know of Samurai Jack, but I'm not familiar enough to say yes or no.
At least the character silhouette type things.
I can see that.
For the meat of the demigods.
Sure. But yeah. A little bit more on how the game plays. It basically takes place over 3 ages. And over the course of those ages, you're trying to get your demigod to earn the most renown. Like I said, you want them to ascend to the throne, and whoever has the most renown at the end of 3 ages ascends. So the way you do that is you send demigods on quests by moving them to open quest slots on cards. And there's like different regions on the board, and the cards will be in the regions. So you can move them to a region and then put them in a spot on the quest. Then you can use cards of fate to influence the outcome of quests in ways that are the most advantageous for your demigod. And it looks like different quests have different slots, so you can have more than one demigod going on a given quest, and then you're like trying to slightly make it to where it benefits your demigod the most. You also have god powers that you can use because you're a divine being. Like you can smite demigods to the abyss. You can portal them across the world. You can even use, they say here, your powers of omniscience to divine the outcome of a quest. So you can kind of just choose how some quests end. Then at the end of each age, there are age cards that are going to be like landmark events that affect the renown of many different demigods all kind of at once. And then city cards represent like current events in the capital and can affect demigods when they return back to the capital. Which, based on their phrasing there, I'm assuming that like you have to like after quests come back to the capital and then go back out to go on more quests. So yeah, I don't know. It sounds kind of interesting. That's like it sounds like maybe an interesting way to do social deduction kind of stuff. I could see it being a lot of fun with like a group of 8 all trying to vie for what demigod is the most successful when only one of them is a neutral one, so to speak. So
it seems like a good idea at a too high a price point.
That's my biggest concern is
like, do I need this game at like a premium game trays level?
Yeah. They do have, so like Jeff said, the most popular pledge is that like
Kickstarter
frickin' bonkers
exclusive with minis.
With minis. They do have a $65 option that's just Veiled Fate with no minis. And then they even do have a $49 option that's Veiled Fate Lite. And that like really cuts down on some of the bling aspect of it. It's not super funded.
Still $50.
Yeah. Still, yeah, and that is the biggest thing is that it seems like, even at $50, it is a lot for a social deduction game.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It's like the card quality is lower, the board quality is lower. You don't get like the fancy first player token. The box is it doesn't have the linen finish and gold foil stamping box.
Which like that I don't care about. I'm fine with a satin finish on the box.
Yeah.
Like the first player token is another one I don't super care about.
No.
The board quality and card quality, I would probably, if I was going to get this, I'd probably go ahead and jump to the 65. Especially because that does also come with the custom. Oh, I guess all of them come with a custom insert. Even that $50 comes with a custom insert. So I don't know. I guess you can do the light and get the miniatures for a $20 add-on. So for $70, you can get the miniatures. And
it just sucks you have to pay $85 for like those exclusives.
Yeah.
I mean, there's also a really cool like white oak or walnut board you can get for this. That would definitely make it very unique. But
metal miniatures with a contrast wash for $40. They got a bunch of stuff to really bling it out if you want to go bonkers.
For sure. it's one of those things of Kickstarters like, this seems cool, but man, is it expensive?
Yeah, and I think like up above on their like why Kickstarter section, they mentioned that like that's at a discount from MSRP.
Yeah.
Which I can't imagine this being actually more expensive later and having it sell. Like, yeah, MSRP for the retail version, the $65 tier, the retail will be $75, and the light version will not be available after the campaign.
Yeah.
So if you don't get it now, the cheapest you can get it will be $75. And that feels like a pricing point that's like designed to encourage people to just, I'll throw the $10 extra to get the minis and go for that 85. So I don't know. It's tough because like the components do look nice. The minis look nice. The art's nice. But like the game trays insert they show even, it's like a couple slots for cards. Like there's just not enough here to really feel like you need some of that stuff.
Yeah. This could have been cheaper. And it's cool that it isn't, but I don't for this kind I don't think I want to pay this for this kind of game. This much for that kind of game.
Yeah, and like I don't know if I missed it. There's a heavy cardboard playthrough of this game. What?
I did see that. Yes. Yeah.
So
it
like
could go up to 2 hours. That's totally heavy cardboard, right?
Sure. This is where like I was hoping that there was like, a TTS version or something somewhere to try it. Because like if I could play this and like if it is actually as fun as it seems like it might be, I could maybe see like going big on it. But I'm not gonna risk throwing $85, like almost $100 on this game when I have no idea if it would actually like work when I get back to playing board games.
Yeah, there's a whole heavy cardboard playthrough from like 4-5 days ago, something like that.
So I don't know. They're also, as much as I like heavy cardboard for some things, they're absolutely not who I'd go to for a social deduction type game.
You are the expert.
Sure. But yeah. So that's Veiled Fate. Go check it out. Go look at the art. Go look at the,
it seems cool.
Freaking contrast wash metal miniatures. Like I don't understand why they decided to fully bling out some of this stuff. But go look at it all, and feel free to maybe go bonkers.
They're making
somebody
a bunch
wants
of
to
money.
somebody wants to spend $179 on that wood board.
It's a cool board. It's
gonna
be one of those things that's like, I own this, but let's hope you get it to the table.
Yeah, if I knew it was a good game that I would really love, then I'd be down for that. But I'm not gonna risk that. No. Anyway, last up on Kickstarter.
Their last game, Moonrakers, was fairly well received. It's
okay.
Yeah, so they have at least one game that's decent.
Right on.
Yeah. Last up on Kickstarter, we have Campaign Trail 2nd Edition and Green Party expansion from our sponsors, Grey Fox Games. So keep that in mind that this is our sponsor and this is their Kickstarter. It's very well funded, $76,000 of its $20,000 goal, over 1,100 backers, and just about 3 days to pledge this one at its most popular pledge level of $79.
Yeah. So we've teased this one for a little bit during our sponsor spot at the end of the episodes. Maybe you've listened that long into the episode, maybe you haven't. But so this is a reprint of Campaign Trail, which had kickstarted last year from a different publisher. I don't remember who it was. And so it's a reprint of that and the new Green Party expansion. So Campaign Trail itself is a nonpartisan, and then they make sure to stress that multiple times throughout this Kickstarter. It is a nonpartisan, asymmetrical, card-driven strategy game that is all about winning the U.S. Electoral College. It does not ask you to take real-life positions on any political issues, but it does simulate U.S. election in terms of like raising money, advertising, campaigning in different states, debating, things like that.
That would be Cosmic Wombat Games.
Thank you. That was the original Kickstarter for it.
Yes.
So essentially what this is an area control game. where you are going to spend money and do a variety of different things. Like there's actions you can take to get. So essentially, the things you can do. Let me just do it this way, because I was trying to do it in like you can do this to do this to do this, but here's just the things you can do. You can fundraise, which adds money to your war chest, which you can use later to spend on advertising and campaign rallies. You can register, which gets voters into your voter supply so that they can commit to vote to you in various states. So that's like building up your supply of voters, which you then spread out. You can travel, moves your candidate around the U.S. to set yourself up for campaign rallies in different states. You can advertise, which create and implement advertising campaigns based on the issues of the day. Each time you do advertising, you get voters in the states that care about the issues you covered in that advertising. So there's a little bit of like, you choose what you're advertising about, and then different states care about different things. You can campaign, which is holding like local campaign rallies wherever your candidate currently is. This lets you get large numbers of voters in the state you are in and the states adjacent to it. And then you can hold various political events that do different things. Like some of them give you votes, some give you more money. They all help you in some way. And so that's kind of at the base of the like card-driven gameplay, which drives like the area control on the board. Because I mean, realistically, that's what an election is. You're trying to get the most voters in one confined area. You also, like, your candidate itself will have unique abilities and things, and there's a bunch of different candidates that you can choose from, as well as like what party you are kind of affects some of those things. And then there are event cards that let you build up a little bit of an engine building aspect of the game to kind of help you out with like resource production, like getting money into your war chest. So that's the basic idea of Campaign Trail. The new edition, the Gray Fox is doing, has a whole shit ton of stuff. They did a whole new box that's designed to hold both the game and the expansion. Whole bunch of like the deluxe version of it, essentially, like screen printed wood tokens, thick cardboard pieces, all kinds of things like that, player mats, all that stuff. There is an option for just an upgrade kit if you have the old Kickstarter from last year. From who was it, Jeff?
Cosmic Wombat?
Cosmic Wombat. There is an upgrade kit. So if you have Cosmic Wombat, they do offer an upgrade kit that will get you a lot of the bling stuff to still work in that initial edition that you have. The Green Party expansion that is unique to this Kickstarter offers 6 new candidates for a whole new party. So there's 4 screen printed party tokens for that party, like for your VP, your president, all that stuff. There is a new breaking news module, an election day module, which are card modules that kind of affect things throughout the campaign. There is an all new game board. There's a new debate track, an order marker, 45 new action cards, more money, things like that, just to work with having the extra campaign, 2 new player mats, and a bunch of screen printed voter meeples for the Green Party, which is like in the shape of a giant turtle. So a whole bunch of stuff like
turtles
that.
are green. That's why.
Yeah, turtles are green. Yeah. So, like I said, there is a standard version and a deluxe version. The deluxe version's all the screen printed wood components. The standard version's all like punchboard stuff. And then there is, for the returning backers from that previous Kickstarter, like they specifically say, we know it's frustrating to back something and then have it change in a later version. So they have a pledge level specifically for it that will give you the expansion with the same components that came with your original version. They will also offer the new big box and the tray that fits everything. And they are adding add-ons for some of the new pieces in case you wanted to upgrade your old pieces into the new like wood bits and stuff. They have a chart that gives you a lot more information about all of that. There's a few more days of like timed releases of like Gray Fox exclusives, which is their like Kickstarter exclusive that they can also sometimes sell later on their website or at conventions. So they've released some of that stuff. So like some of them have been exclusive action cards, exclusive candidate cards, breaking news cards, things like that. Looks like there's at least 2 new candidates that have been released through that stuff. So you're up to like 8 new candidates for that expansion. Yeah, that's a rough overview of Campaign Trail, and the expansion. The original game's pretty solidly rated, 7.9 on BGG. 1 to 6 players, best at 3 on BGG. So don't know what adding another.
How do you do 6 players on it? Like, is it 6 different factions, or is it like team based at that point? If it's with 6 people, like
I have literally no idea. Yeah, because they don't really say. So so the Kickstarter says 1 to 8 players.
I've got to assume then, because they're adding a new faction on this one, that it's either 1 or 2 people.
Yeah, the original was 1 to 6, so I would assume that would be like 2 players per team or something like that.
So you can maybe run like they might be combining basically parties' primaries. So like each party can run 2 candidates or something. I don't know. I'm not sure how that would work. Or maybe like at that point, one of you actually, because they do have VP tokens. I bet at that point you pick, you're playing teams, so it's 2 teams or 3 teams of 2 or 4 teams of 2, and one of you's the VP and one of you's the president.
Yeah.
And so you do slightly different campaigning and stuff. That's the only thing that makes sense. They don't specifically talk about that, so that's pure speculation. But that's what would make sense to me.
I see. Yeah, the 6-player mats, they have 2 of each, and one of them says president. So I gotta assume that the other one's vice president. Then so it makes sense.
So, the how to play stuff, I pulled all of that from the original game on BGG because they don't really cover it on the Kickstarter. There's like videos of how to play and stuff. But I just pulled the quick and dirty like description how to like what you can do from BGG.
My question though is. Because I know there's like debates and stuff you can do during the vice president debate. Does the other people just play the game like normal because they're not paying attention to the VP debate at all?
Yes,
okay. Almost certainly. Yeah. The VP debate, whatever the outcome is, you reduce it by at least 50%.
I would assume,
perhaps more.
I would assume they just go into a different room and then they come back and play the game like normal. So it happens, but it doesn't affect anything.
Yes, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
This might be the most different like shipping tiers I've ever seen on a Kickstarter. I feel like there's more than 20.
Oh wow, yeah.
17, so not quite more than 20, but
very refined.
Yeah. US, you're looking at about $11 if you go for the deluxe edition. $0 extra for anything additional. So that's nice. Whereas like the rest of the world, if you're not one of the other like 15 countries that are covered, $30 for the returning, $65 shipping for the POTUS level, $40 additional for each extra base game, and $14 for the playmat. So shipping
that's between $17 and $24 for everything that's not the rest of the world.
Yeah. So if you're not one of the like I said, like 15, 16 countries that are listed, it's expensive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and just looking at this, trying to figure out some of them, just based on their 2 initial is
Denmark,
like
China, Hong Kong, Japan, Korea, Malaysia.
That's what I'm thinking. What is NO though?
I don't know.
No idea.
Damn, yeah, I don't know. Well, because it's also weird because they have EU, but then they have things that like DE has got to be Germany.
Yes, it is.
Yes,
because it's not Delaware.
Norway.
NO, Norway. Okay, Norway. I'd buy that. What's MY?
Malaysia.
Myanmar.
Malaysia
is what I'd go for with.
I like how China and Hong Kong are on the same tier, to where it's like you're the same place in a lot of ways, but we're gonna make sure that Hong Kong's listed separately. But yeah, a lot of different unique tiers for different countries and things.
Yes.
But yeah, So that is Campaign Trail 2nd Edition and the Green Party expansion. Got a couple days left for it, so go check it out. Maybe get it. I think I'm gonna get it.
I'm thinking about it too.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna pull the trigger on it. That's a game, like, the theme is actually interesting to me.
Yes, I agree. This is like, there's a lot of area control ones where the theme can make pull you in a lot more, and this one is definitely doing that for me right now. But
as of right now, I have backed it. I might pull out right at the end. We'll see. But yeah, that wraps up Kickstarters. So we are all done with Kickstarters. And we are ready to move on from there to basically wrapping things up because there's no listener feedback. Jeff is devastated. He doesn't get to read an email.
Crushed.
Heartbroken. Yeah. So no listener feedback, but if you wanted to give us listener feedback for a future episode, there are multiple ways that you can do that. You can send us an email that Jeff will read.
Emails? Emails at milehighgameguys.com.
You can find all three of us over on Twitter. I tweet under @MHGameGuys.
I am Zach_MHGG.
I am Jeff_MHGG.
We have an Instagram account that will eventually be more active when we get back to playing games in person regularly. And that is at MHGameGuys or Instagram.com/MHGameGuys. Our Facebook page, Facebook.com/MHGameGuys. Our website, milehighgameguys.com, which has links in old episode notes to things like the Slack channel, where all kinds of shenanigans happen at all times. Plenty of opportunities to make fun of
40K game that could probably also go up on Instagram.
Yeah, as well as pictures of the painting process that could also go up on Instagram.
Nah.
It's also a place where, Cassidy makes fun of me for calling her Candace at the end of the stream.
Oh, Candace.
Long story short, the Slack channel is definitely one of the best and most entertaining ways to get hold of us. It's also where we organize the Among Us that we all used to play. Now I still play.
Well, it's because you all play at 10:45 at night.
Dude, the timing does suck. Even I'm not super thrilled about the timing always. I would love to play more early in the afternoon, 5 or 6 Colorado time. But I don't know. We'll see about organizing more of that. There's also our Board Game Geek Guild number 2731 over on BGG if you want to follow us over there. That'll be something that'll get more active again when we get back to streams and things like that. And then our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/MHGameGuys. Go follow us over there, and that way you'll be alerted if we do an impromptu last-minute stream like we did last week for Terraforming Mars. You'll also get notifications for the bi-weekly MHDD streams that I do with a bunch of other awesome folks from the local community. We have one going on Tuesday, so it will have already been done by the time you listen to this episode, but you can still jump over to that Twitch channel, twitch.tv/MHGameGuys, and watch it on replay, including you could also rewatch the Terraforming Mars game if you missed that, and check out that Make Mars Green Again mod that we were playing with on Tabletop Simulator. So lots of ways to follow us and get involved with the content that we make. Yeah, that pretty much wraps everything up. As always, we would like to take some time to thank our awesome sponsors, Gray Fox Games, for continuing to support us through this pandemic and our reduced content and reduced game playing. As we literally just talked about, their latest game, Campaign Trail with the Green Party expansion, is on Kickstarter. Rewind this podcast about 15 minutes, 20 minutes, however much it is after the end of editing, but rewind back a bit and you can listen to us talk about Campaign Trail and all the stuff in the game and in the expansion, and you can hear Zach and I waffle back and forth on whether or not we're going to actually back it, and then you can tune in next week to find out whether we actually followed through with backing it.
Unless you went full waffle.
Unless you went full waffle. So, but yeah, grayfoxgames.com if you want to go check out games that they have available for pre-order and or purchase. And while you're over there, don't forget that we have coupon codes that you can use to get 20% off of their non-exclusive products. for the next couple days, you can use the October code MHSPOOKY, MHSPOOKY. If you listen to this after the end of October, then you can begin to use sneaky our November code, which will be NOV Game Guys, NOV Game Guys, all one word for that one. So go check them out. Go look at what games they've got available, and maybe save yourself 20% if you decide to pick something up. So, yeah. Jeff, do you have a prepared statement?
Of course. Gray Fox Games, quality games, cleverly crafted. Also, the nightmares, they never go away. Once you've been on the battlefield, tasted the exhilaration, the tension, it all becomes part of you. Once you've awakened the warrior within, it never sleeps again. You crave even bigger tensions, even bigger thrills.
That really felt like that was going to continue. Right on. Well, that wraps everything up. At this point, if you're still listening to this episode, give Zach a giant round of applause for editing what is one of the longest episodes we've done in a long time. Yeah, as always, I've been your host, Adrian.
I am still Zach.
And I'm Battle Brother Jeff.
Bye.
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 Punchboard Media, where we all
bring something
to the table.
pull up a chair
at punchboardmedia.com.